now we discuss about the production in the long run. So actually we spend quite a lot of time for the production in the short run, but in the long run, comparatively, it's simple because the only difference is in the long run, all factors are variables. We are facing a production function, which is the Q, okay, the quantity produced equal to a function of labor and the capital. So I can use my previous example, Japanese steakhouse example. Labor is the shift, number of shifts, keep it simple, right? So this is in the short run, long run, both are variable costs, let's say variable inputs. And then that the K is the table, like the iron tables I mentioned, because initially they have 5 tables. In the short run, they cannot change. But in the long run, they can either install 1 more table or 2 more tables in the same restaurant, or they can choose to open another, let's say that restaurant. In the long run, that all factors are variable, and then we don't have so-called the fixed cost. The production function will show the most efficient, because when talking about this efficiency, that we know if we can have all inputs variable, then we can define our efficient, let's say, way of production. So this is again that the how we can, make our most efficient, let's say, production. You might ask, so why you are talking about the efficiency? And then let me tell you, this is the idea behind it. If we are not talking about the maximized profit, we still have the idea that how we can make our production efficient. The idea is more like similar to the maximizing our utility. Remember that at the tangent point. So in this case is how we can maximize our production fixed cost. Okay, so this is if we have a fixed cost, and then we can, the other way is how we can produce, if we are given a fixed quantity that we needed to produce, how we can minimize our costs. So this is the efficiency we are talking about. So although we are not talking about yet maximizing the profit, but we can also talk about the optimized decision regarding the efficiency or the most efficient way of production. Okay, so this is something that I want to add. In the long run, that we also have to consider the costs, because we have all the inputs that are variable, right? So they are variable, they can all change. So that we have the, for example, we have the technology can be changed, the labors, the capitals, all can be changed. And then we are facing so-called economy of scale. Economy of scale is the concept that whether that the quantity of the product or the quantity of output goes up, the cost, whether it go down or it's stay the same or it's go up. So there are 3 different economy of scale. One is the economy of scale, meaning that the cost is going down, the cost of going down with the output going up. Okay, so there are also the constant, say that the constant return of like a scale. All right, so that means that it's a flat line, it's a horizontal line. And then there are also, we call it this economies of scale. This is like the increase of the cost. The cost is going up. The company is at the very beginning, it's a small, and then once they are, let's say that their size is grow up, and then they might reduce some of the fixed cost that they might have, some efficiency, introduced, and then they reduce the cost. And then for certain range, they can keep that low, cost operation. But eventually, if they go big enough, like AT&T, right? Like those, our government, exactly. Our government, if it is a company, administration process, bureaucratic process, that will make this less efficient. And then actually this is this economy of size or this economy of scale. All right. So if talk about the economy of scale, you just imagine that once we have this, the production increase or goes up, the cost actually, or the average cost, it doesn't matter, average cost is going down, right? The average cost is going down. Just keep this, let's say that the consistent, we have this vertical line always stands for a dollar amount. This can be the cost, okay? It can be the total cost if we are talking about the average cost. If the company is grow up, from S to L, actually they are reducing their average cost. There will be two, let's say that the two average cost curves I needed to introduce you. The first one is the long run average cost. The second is the short run average cost curve. So actually the short run average cost curve, you already see, simply speaking, that we have, this is more like a curve. Remember that in that case, that in the short run, we have the average total cost, right? But in this case, we don't have like the fixed cost anymore. So we have only the variable cost. Then this is the line that this is the curve I'm talking about. This is so-called the short run average cost, all right? And then remember that we have the marginal cost, which is across that. Once we are introducing you the long run average cost, the long run combines with the short run average cost curves, okay? This is short run. Actually, the idea is that given the size, because the size cannot be changed in the short run. So given the different size, the company is running we call it the short run average cost, right? You can think this is a small Japanese restaurant. This is a little bigger. This is a medium Japanese restaurant. And then those are the large, okay, Japanese restaurant. But imagine if this is like a merged together, they become like a one big company. And then the decision will be made based upon all those production, right? Take that into consideration. And then they are facing one same market. The customers visited those Japanese steakhouses. We can draw a long run average cost. Or let's say that this long run average cost is just like the company is grow up, and then that they decided to expand their operation. And then we call this envelope cost curve. Why envelope? This is more like this is holding all the short run average, average cost curves. Then this long run curve and then short run curve will be interact at the, at each of this, interact with each of this short run average curves at a certain point. And then we can see a universe, let's say lowers or the minimum cost, which is the Q3, okay? So the idea behind that is that this area is, we call it the economy of scale. We are decreasing the average cost at this range, okay? But then we are entering into this constant return of scale into this range. So this is the ideal range, okay? So this is the minimum, right? And then we are facing increasing one. So the idea behind that is that we should not produce at this amount, okay? This economies of scale. We should produce somewhere here in the long run. The long run, for the envelope long run, average cost curve, this is holding all this, or let's say interact with all the short run average cost curves. We have already introduced the constant return to scale, this economy of scale. We needed to make the decision. I already tell you the optimize the production decision should be somewhere during this constant returns of scale, all right? In between that range. And then that will be something that the shape of the long run average cost curve has implications. So the idea actually is talking about what is the long run, the average cost curve look like. Let me tell you, it's about this shape. Whether this long run average cost curve is like this U shape, a very typical U shape, or this is more like enlarged U shape, right? In this case, that means that every company should be the same, right? So because they have only 1 point, right? 1 point, okay? So at this output level is 10,000, every company should be the same. But in this case, the company can be many, but they can be all in different size. Why? It can be started from 5,000 as the output, the smaller size or the smaller scale, or this is in the larger scale, which is 20,000. So they can be evenly distributed within this constant return of scale. So that means that they are all minimize their costs, okay? So this is the idea. First of all, if you are a manager or you are the owner of a small business, you need to understand your production, okay? Come up with a production function, even if it is a very simple one, right? And then the second is consider your cost. Okay, so the cost is something that you needed to take into, the fixed cost into consideration, the variable cost into consideration, and don't forget about the opportunity cost, okay, the implicit cost. And then think about that, whether this in the long run, whether this you should increase your size, increase the scale, stay in this constant return of scale, or later on I will introduce you how to make the optimize the decision or optimize the production decision when facing different market, whether it's a perfect competitive market or whether it is, let's say that the monopoly market, monopolistic market, or pure monopoly, because you are facing different market and then you are facing different demand curve. Okay. All right. See you next time.